Hi, I'm Michael Valitutti, graduate gemologist, and I want to speak to you today about a very ancient gemstone, Peridot, the birthstone for August. A lot of us think that, it's just Peridot, it's really nothing special, but really, it's one of the most interesting and most fascinating gemstones and most ancient gemstones around, actually. I think it's kind of received a bad rap over the years, people thinking that it's really not a big deal when actually it is a big deal. Now, they have found peridot in ancient Egyptian tombs that date back over 4,000 years. Matter of fact, it was the Egyptians that first mined it in an island close to Egypt called St. John's Island. And back then they used to call it topaz. They used to think that all these gemstones were topazes back then. But peridot is a lovely, beautiful, naturally green stone. It has a very good hardness, around 7 to 7.5, so it's perfect for everyday wear. It will never ever color fade. So again, if you live in the southern states, it's not a problem whatsoever to be outdoors as much as you want. With your peridot, the sun is not going to have an effect on its color. It is iron, magnesium, silicon oxide. So basically that is the chemical combination or chemical formula that actually makes peridot. It gets its color from iron. So we call that in gemology an idiochromatic gemstone, because the thing that actually makes peridot a peridot, which is those four chemical elements, one of them gives it its natural color. So it's idiochromatic, which means also that it can only be green. So there's no such thing as a pink peridot or a yellow peridot. It's green. And it can go from a very, very dark green to a lighter green, but it can only be green. Now, peridot is a fascinating gemstone because there's basically two gemstones that form deep, deep within the earth. Now, the earth, as you know, big ball, and it has the crust that surrounds it, just like the skin of an orange. But when you go below that crust into the magma, into the mantle, that is exactly where diamonds and peridots form. And they come to the surface through volcanic activity. And this is why we don't get a lot of large peridots, and we don't get a lot of super large diamonds, because they're travelers. They form in one part, and through volcanic activity, they have to travel hundreds of miles and being, knocked around to actually get to the surface of the earth. So this is why we don't find many, many large stones when it does come to peridot. So for peridot, generally when I studied at GIA, they told me that any size that was 4 or 5 carat and above was kind of a collector size. Most peridot that you will find in the marketplace is going to be within the 1 to 2 carat range. That's very, very typical for peridot. And of course, you can get a lot smaller than that. But generally, they don't come that big. When they do, I know when they get around 5 and 6 carat, they're very fine quality. They're priced about the same price as a very expensive tourmaline. Another great thing of peridot is that peridot also comes to the earth through meteorites. GIA, Gems and Gemology, back in the year 2011, did a really, really great article all about what we call palistitic peridots. And here are the peridots actually embedded inside an actual meteorite. And folks, they're the same peridots that we find here on Earth. Now, these meteorites occurred outside our solar system, which means that out there somewhere, there is a planet with geological processes very similar to the Earth, because it formed the exact same gemstone as we find here on Earth. That's called palistitic peridot. So for those of you that think, well, it's just peridot, no. As you can see, it's also a space traveler. It's an amazing gemstone. And of course, it is the gemstone for the month of August. Beautiful, amazing green color. The main sources are going to be today China. They're also going to be here. Let me just turn this one around. They're going to be Burma. And you get a little bit out of Arizona, not as much as you used to get out of the San Carlos Reservation area, and Pakistan and Afghanistan. But I would say that the major source today, believe it or not, is China. What we have here is these peridots that you're seeing here on my turnstile, they actually do come from Hebei province, which is located in China. The great thing about the Chinese peridot is the size that we're getting. I mean, check out the size of these stones here. You're looking at specimens here that are well over 5 carat and 6 carat. And the quality is really unbelievable. Sometimes when you look at a peridot, and you look inside the stone, you're going to see little tiny black marks. That's called mica. And mica is just a mineral that we find in the Earth's crust. And sometimes around that mica, it'll appear to be like a strain, like a little sun spangle. That's because it got caught in there as it was forming. And with that heat and pressure, it caused a little strain. But for the peridots that I know that we sell, that most people sell, we try to give you the peridots that have little to none of these eye-visible inclusions. Now, peridot could be cut into a host of shapes, not like kunzite. Kunzite's really hard to cut heart shapes and other shapes like that. With peridot, there really is no limit. So we get them in round, we get them in oval. As you can see on my turnstile, I have cushion. I like the cushions because they really show off a lot of color. But I also love the marquise. You know, a great thing about a marquise, and it doesn't matter what gemstone it is, with a marquise, most of the weight of a marquise is on top. And marquises don't actually weigh a lot. So you get a lot of look for not a lot of money. So that's one great thing. If you're ever shopping for a stone, a marquise is really a good way to go because you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. Notice how clean and clear these stones are. And this is the natural peridot rough that you're seeing here. Now you can see when we find peridot, these stones here are a little bit hazy. That's why they weren't cut. But I use them for demonstration purposes to show you that the color really, really is natural. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a stone that you can love, that you can wear. And when you think of all the gemstones that are available to you as a customer, peridot gives you a lot of bang for the buck because, you know, in comparison to a lot of gemstones, it is relatively affordable. And I think that it offers a lot as far as color consistency, durability, and absolute beauty. What's the best peridot for you to get for color? Like what I'm showing you on the screen. You want to get that deep, rich hue. You don't want it to be that spinach color. You want it to be more of a green with a slightly bluish tinge to it, which is exactly what you have here. The stones in peridot, when they're great, they're amazing. Some of the finest peridot I've ever seen is actually on display at the GIA Museum located in Carlsbad, California. They have some very large, exquisite specimens, and it has a color almost between an emerald and a tsavorite garnet kind of mixed together. Very, very beautiful, beautiful stone. Again, one that I think that has been underestimated by the public. Because I remember as a little boy, there was a few years there, more than a few years, where you were getting peridot that looked like spinach, and it was really kind of ooh and all that. And I think that the recent discovery that happened a little bit in Pakistan and Afghanistan, but mostly out of Hebei province in China, really, really changed the world's attitude toward peridot because as a gemologist, for affordability and quality, it's some of the best peridot that I've ever seen. So again, if you love this unbelievable gemstone, it's something that I would not hesitate to invest in. I think it'd be a great addition to any jewelry wardrobe. You can watch me on the home shopping networks because I'm going to be doing a lot of peridot in the coming months and years because it's a stone that I've always loved and that I know that you will also love.